Great. Well, thank you for inviting me to speak. I'm Michael Hill. I'm the CEO of the charity Friends of the Lake District. We're a landscape charity. We were founded in 1934 at an event in Fitzpark in Keswick. We have around 6,000 members, and our vision is to achieve thriving Cumbrian landscapes for nature, for people, and forever. Now, landscape to us means much more than just the view. It's really about the web of interconnected things which make up life in this place, in the national park. Nature, water, geology, heritage, farming, communities, business, transport, housing, visitors, everything really is landscape. Now the landscape is like a complex organism. I was talking about the landscape being like a complex organism, a human body, and everything has to be in balance in the landscape for the organism to thrive. Now, at heart, we're a campaigning organisation, and our first campaign was actually for the formation of a national park for the Lake District. That was quite a radical move at the time because there was no such thing as a national park anywhere in the UK, so we were actually campaigning for the concept of national parks. We went on to campaign against conifer plantations, which were being established in rigid blocks on the fells. We were also instrumental in winning the campaign for a speed limit on Windermere at the turn of the century to protect the tranquility of that iconic place. And today, we're still campaigning against inappropriate developments like the massive holiday park planned for a sensitive stretch of coastline at Ron Head. We worked very closely with local communities on that one. And against the development of a Zip World adventure attraction in Elterwater Quarry, where we believe the increased traffic will undermine the tranquility of a community that's already under huge pressure from tourism. We always try to campaign with a positive solution, especially if we're campaigning against something. And we also base all our campaigns on research and evidence, particularly research and evidence from the communities affected. Now, as I understand it, this meeting this evening is about visitor management. So I want to talk about 3 of our current campaigns in this area and how they are rooted in the communities of the Lake District. So first, about a year and a half ago, we published a report called Who Pays for the Lake District? It was written by an academic expert in the field of tourism impact, Dr. Davina Stanford. Now, the report looks at what she calls the invisible burden created by the 18 million visitors a year to the Lake District. It explores several areas of environmental and social stresses caused by tourism, which the landscape can't cope with. Environmental issues include pollution and disruption from cars. Over 90% of visitors arrive by private vehicle. Erosion of the fragile fells, high water demand at peak periods, high sewage loads at peak periods, and littering. Social and community impacts include a lack of housing for local people, more on this shortly, leading to a feeling that communities are being somehow hollowed out by tourism. The report also looks at local services like mountain rescue, firefighting, and medical agencies facing increased pressure. The main message is that the infrastructure, the stuff that's designed to support the 39,000 people who live in the park, is nowhere near sufficient to cope with the 18 million people who visit. There needs to be a way to fund solutions to these problems. So the report goes on to look at tourism destinations around the world which are solving this problem in clever ways. Places like the Balearic Islands in Spain, places like Venice and Milan. In these places and in hundreds more, there is a tourist tax which channels money back into the communities and landscapes affected to offset the impact of mass tourism. Now, based on this report, we went on to call for more research into a visitor levy, a visitor tax for the Lake District, and we now support both the idea of an overnight stay charge a bed tax, which it looks like the new mayor will be able to enact, and a visitor vehicle charge on private cars coming in from the park. The funds from either would need to go towards offsetting those invisible burdens in our report. And as part of that campaign, we decided to consult communities about the idea of a visitor charge. So we asked the polling company YouGov to run a survey. They spoke to 2,000 people, and it turned out that 68% of residents of the Lake District, of Cumbria, 68% of residents of Cumbria support a visitor charge, with slightly more favouring a vehicle charge than a bed tax. So that's our report, Who Pays for the Lake District. Now, the second campaign I want to touch on is our action against littering, fly camping, and antisocial behaviour from last summer. From about Easter 2025 onwards last year, we started noticing an increased number of concerned emails coming in from our members, who really are our eyes and ears across Cumbria. They were seeing more fly campers than in previous years. These are people who pitch their tents at the side of a lake or a tarn as if it was a campsite and often leave huge amounts of litter. We quickly put together an online survey, and by the height of summer we'd received 785 responses, 82% of them from residents. 97% of people who responded said they'd encountered litter, 80% reported wildfires or barbecues, and 77% reported fly camping. And 34% experienced an aggressive reaction when they tried to challenge people who were fly camping or littering. Now, a sizable majority, 65% of respondents, said that the situation was worse than the year before. The main affected areas were Ullswater and Derwent Water, with high levels of antisocial behaviour also being reported in Buttermere, Borrowdale and Ennerdale, suggesting that these sorts of tourism impacts are no longer confined to the ancient hotspots around Windermere. Now, I know you're no strangers to this kind of behaviour in this area, but it was good to get this data in one place so that we could talk about it. And at this point, I'd like to say huge respect to the Keswick binfluencers who've been fighting this battle for years and who we're proud to work alongside on this topic. Our survey hit the headlines on all the major news outlets, and it got the attention of David Allen, the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner for Cumbria. We had several meetings with him where we pushed for more public space protection orders, which have been brought in time for this summer. The third and final campaign I want to tell you about is called Fairer Housing, Stronger Communities, and it's an active campaign right now. Again, it's based on evidence from the communities affected. Our research found that the uncontrolled growth in holiday accommodation is hollowing out communities across the Lake District. In some places, there are more than 3 times as many holiday homes as there are lived-in dwellings. Central Ambleside and Central Keswick are particularly badly affected. You can download our report from our website if you're interested in the full data. And interestingly, it seems no one had ever undertaken this kind of research before, so certainly not in recent history. This proliferation of holiday lets and second homes, it has a strange double impact. At the same time, there are too few permanent residents to sustain local schools and businesses, but there are also too many visitors, straining roads and water and sewerage systems, waste collection, disposal services and policing. So based on that research, we are now campaigning for 4 things. We want changes to the regulations so that flipping a house to an Airbnb or a second home would require planning permission. Secondly, we want a mandatory register for all holiday lets so we can monitor the number in each place. We want new laws to require holiday lets to be licensed by the local authority so there are safety checks and there's a way of complaining about noise, for example. And we want new laws to ensure that holiday lets pay council tax rather than business rates. Now, you can visit our website and sign a petition if you support this campaign. So those are the 3 campaigns I wanted to mention. Who pays for the Lake District, litter and antisocial behaviour, and fairer housing, stronger communities. I haven't been able to go into too much detail, but I hope I've shown that all our work is rooted in evidence and testimony gathered from the communities of the Lake District. Our thousands of members and supporters are really at the core of that. And if you're interested in the kind of work that I've spoken about tonight, I would urge you to visit our website, sign up to our newsletter, and consider becoming a member yourself. Thank you very much indeed for giving me the time to speak to you tonight.